Hey, St. Peters. I'd like to start this week with a poem. It surprised me. How baffling are you, O Church, and yet how I love you. How you have made me suffer, and yet how much I owe you. I should like to see you destroyed, and yet I need your presence. You have given me so much scandal, and yet you have made me understand scrutiny. I have seen nothing in the world more devoted to obscurity, more compromised, more false, and I have touched nothing more pure, more generous, more beautiful. How often I have wanted to shut the doors of my soul in your face, and how often I have prayed to die in the safety of your arms. No, I cannot free myself from you because I am you, although not completely. And where should I go? That's the poetry of Carlo Carretto. And this week, when all the news was about reopening churches, at least all the news in my world, I found that poem and I was stopped in my tracks. After the press releases, the interviews, and all the things, I just wanted to hide. I wanted to hide from the entire conversation about when the church could be reopened. Because the reality is, St. Peter's, we can't open yet. For those of you who haven't heard, our sanctuary could only seat 30 people if we were socially distanced. 30! That, and there's our covenant of welcome. The covenant of welcome that says everybody's welcome. Do we really believe that if we reopen and say that a certain age group can't come, or those who are vulnerable or immunocompromised really shouldn't be there? I just want us to think about that. And then I started thinking, is church, is worship if I can't sing? Because right now, there is nothing that says that singing is safe. It was at that point I was about done. And I wanted to hide and run and not talk about it anymore. And I had meetings. And we talked about it more. And I wasn't always at my best. But I returned to the scripture as a result. And I found myself in Psalm 31, which talks about needing refuge. I think that's what I long for right now. And then there was this great thing that happened this week, which has driven me crazy. We have a robin who's trying to find refuge. And she wants refuge in a particular spot. She wants to have refuge on top of one of our lights. She can't be on that light because we have to go in and out of that door multiple times a day. So she built her nest and we removed it. And there are many other places for her to be. Many of them have refuge and shelter available. But she's determined. And so for almost 2 full days, every couple hours, we had to remove her handiwork. She would rebuild and we'd take it down. And she'd rebuild and we'd take it down. And she really wanted that refuge, just like I want the refuge of our sanctuary right now. And then we were like, look, she's not getting the picture. So we put up this tiny little pyramid, a plastic pyramid, thinking she couldn't land on it. She landed on it. She nudged it off and rebuilt. So we tied it to the light with some twine. It took her a little longer. She nudged it off. It hung below the light. We went to bed and the next day decided to consult the internet, and finally we discovered that hanging tinfoil, something reflective, can thwart the efforts of a very determined bird. I don't know that I feel great about that, but I do know that I learned a lot about refuge in the process. And then, about the same time that we figured out how to get the bird to stop rebuilding, the news came out about others who can't find refuge. And not just that they can't build their nests in another place, but that this world is not safe for them. If you haven't read the stories of the black man gunned down by white men simply for running, jogging in a neighborhood, I urge you to read them. People of color cannot find refuge right now. Racism is real. Privilege is real. And that's what the psalm got me to see. Some of us are not speaking out when we need to. Now, if you're one of the ones who wants to tune out right now because I've said these words, please don't. Just because we don't know what to do doesn't mean that we go hide. It doesn't mean that we just step back and figure someone else will deal with it. I returned to the psalm, and what I found at the end gives me hope. The psalmist says, "Let your face shine upon your servant. Save me in your unfailing love." Another interpretation, "Warm me, your servant, with a smile. Save me because you love me." That's the thing, St. Peter's. I miss your smiles. I miss pretty much everything about being together. I even miss the weird smell of our building. But it's not where we need to be right now. We need to be the church in other ways. And you know what? I miss your smiles, but I also only miss the authentic ones. I've been saying for nearly 20 years that the suburbs are a mission field. And I feel that now more than ever. Because in the calls that I've made this week, I kept asking, "So how are you doing?" And people would say, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm doing okay." And then I'd say, "That sounds like a lie." And you would say, "It is. I'm not okay." This week in particular has been really hard, really difficult for a lot of people for totally legitimate reasons. It's okay to say that, because what the psalmist wants is not a fake smile. The psalmist wants us to return to God, to find refuge in whatever way we need to, and to be honest about it. I've changed my question. What I'm now asking people is, how are you doing today? And if today you're smiling and life is really good, then great. And if today is one of those crappy days, then just show me that. I think everything started to hit this week. We're realizing how difficult this is for some and how much hasn't changed for others. And honestly, we're in the same congregation. So I urge you to be honest, to answer the question, how you doing today? And then take some time to find refuge in a God who loves you no matter what. We will meet again. We are working towards that time. But in the meantime, don't be silent about that which needs your voice, whether it's your sadness or the injustice of the world. I love you, church. I love you.